listening to the Agent Survival Guide podcast, a podcast for today's insurance agents. Informing, educating, empowering, improving the way you do business in an industry that's anything but static. In today's episode, we all want to approach our sales pitch with confidence, especially the close. We are back with 3 more closing techniques to help boost your chances and switch up your presentations. 3 additional effective techniques for closing insurance sales, written by Isabel Vitale and Ashley Toomey. So close, and yet there could always be that health insurance sale that got away. But with more insurance sales closing techniques in your back pocket, hopefully they will be few and far between. As a health insurance agent, you are in the relationship business. Your main objective is to serve your clients and help them find the right health plans for their unique circumstances. But you're also in the business of making sales and closing deals. Today, we are talking 3 additional tips for insurance closes, not previously mentioned in our episode on effective closing techniques. So if you missed that episode, no worries. We will have it linked in the episode notes so you can get caught up. Let's get into our additional closing approaches for insurance agents. First up, the question close. Very useful for clients who are not forthcoming with their opinions. The question close allows you to steer the conversation in a few different ways. You can ask questions to eliminate objections, clarify responses, or ask directly whether they want to move forward. Additionally, consider tossing out a question in response to a question, which throws the ball back into the client's court. Doing this can provide you with a little breathing room to figure out your response while also empowering your client to articulate what's important to them. And a note that I want to add here, pay attention to whether your client is receptive of this strategy or frustrated by it. They may view it as rude or an outright deflection. Here are some ways you can ask questions to close a sale. Eliminate objections by asking, is there anything preventing you from enrolling in this plan today? Ask questions to clarify responses. This can be especially helpful if they're replying with only one-word answers to your questions. For example, if you start out asking, do I understand correctly that having a low premium is important to you? Your client might simply say, yes. You can clarify that answer by saying, great. Do you feel like I've understood your needs? And say they follow that up with another one word, yes. You can say, please let me know if those needs ever change. Are you ready to move forward with the enrollment now? We can knock it out in about 10 minutes. We also mentioned answering a question with another question. Say your client asks, does this plan have any added benefits? You can keep the conversation moving by responding with a question. What kind of benefits would you find useful? What would you use it for? And then for a more straightforward approach, given our discussion, do you see this plan fitting your health needs and lifestyle? Remember, a no isn't the end. It's just a jumping off point for more questions. Although the question close only mentions one in its name, be prepared to ask more than one. You can spread this type of close throughout the meeting to propel your conversation forward toward that final decision. Our second approach is called the Benjamin Franklin close. Sometimes the best way to approach a decision is to make a good old-fashioned pro and con list, just like Benjamin Franklin used to do. When it comes to this insurance sales strategy, the Ben Franklin close works best with either or decisions. Don't go too deep into the options. That will just complicate things. But say you're at the end of a sales presentation. a pro and con list comparing a Medicare Advantage plan to a Medicare Supplement and Part D drug plan pairing might be just the thing to help your client finalize their selection. Writing out the list on a whiteboard or tablet can help your client visualize their options better. This is especially useful for clients having a difficult time deciding what's important to them. Now, you could certainly make a pro or con list showing your client the reasons to buy versus not to buy from you. But that leaves the door wide open for your client to simply walk away. That's why we suggest comparing two plan options. This way, you assume your client is going to select a plan, also known as the assumptive close from our previous episode. With that assumption made, you're just there as an experienced professional, helping them see which plan is the better fit. Using the Ben Franklin close with the assumptive close to compare two plans can be a win-win. You get the sale either way, and hopefully your client feels empowered and in control of their health decisions. Here's an example of a pro and con list comparing two different Medicare Advantage plans. We're looking at a PPO plan from carrier A and an HMO plan from carrier B. Let's take a look at the pros of the plan from carrier A. It's a PPO plan with a national hospital network. That's good for when your client is traveling, and there are no copays your client needs to worry about. However, the premium is not low, and your client's out-of-pocket costs will be higher. Next, let's take a look at the HMO plan from carrier B. This plan has a low premium, and your client's primary care provider is in-network. There are good added benefits too, but the downsides include more network restrictions, coverage limitations when traveling, and small copays. Two different people can look at these pros and cons and make completely different choices, depending on their circumstances. Cross-reference the list to your notes and knowledge of what's important to your client. Then wrap up this Ben Franklin close with a dash of the question close. Ask your client, which plan do you think is the best fit based off of our list? Next up, we've got our third approach, the modified sharp angle close. Traditionally, the sharp angle close deals with objections by surprising the potential buyer with an agreement statement and then asking them to sign. For example, say you're shopping for a car and you say to the salesperson, "I love this car, but not those cheap tires." If they were using the sharp angle close, they'd reply, "If I throw in 4 free tires, will you purchase this car today?" The sharp angle is created in your response by agreeing and asking point blank in the same breath. Now, as an insurance agent, we don't have the power to cut deals like this. We can't reduce premiums. We can't throw in free XYZ. That's why we call it a modified approach. So for an insurance agent, the modified sharp angle close might sound something like this. Your client states, "I'm just not really sure if I'd use some of the added benefits that much." You can reply by saying, "If I could show you some different ways you could utilize these benefits in a way that makes sense for you, would you be comfortable moving forward with an enrollment today?" In this example, the client is stuck on a small detail of the plan. Even though the benefit seems like a no-brainer, people object to things for all sorts of different reasons. Modifying this close takes the objection and turns it into an opportunity for education and exploration. And a word of caution here, if you're going to make these kinds of statements, make sure you're okay with the client potentially saying no, and then be ready with another way to keep the conversation moving forward. Remember, the word no could just be another opportunity to try another tactic. With the strategies mentioned in this episode and the previous one we mentioned in the open, you've got a total of 7 insurance sales techniques to use. Now it's time to practice your insurance sales pitch. Having different techniques at your fingertips will keep things fresh for your clients and keep you from feeling like you're reading from a script. Also, you can prepare beforehand by writing up a couple of scripts and ask a friend or partner to rehearse with you. I am a huge fan of sticky notes, and there's nothing wrong with sticking some subtle sticky notes in your meeting materials to remind you of your options. Make sure to put in the work of connecting with a client, learning their needs, interests, and preferences before trying to close the deal with one of these classic strategies. As you're working through these strategies and training to become a skilled closer, you might have some questions. Our team here at Ritter Insurance Marketing, the FMO that powers this podcast, can help. Register with our site and learn more about sales, products, and closing from our sales team. We've got the link to register in our episode notes. Completely free to do that. And if you missed out on our previous episode with the first 4 closing techniques, you'll find the link to listen to that episode in the notes as well. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this installment of our show. We will see you next episode. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written by Isabel Vitale, script proofing by Ashley Toomey, recording and production by me, Sarah Ruppel, podcast design by Urban Rivera. Follow along with our show wherever you like to listen. Rate and review our show on Apple or Spotify.